Welcome back, Lupus Warriors. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2 of my podcast. Today we're going to talk about how being diagnosed with a chronic illness can affect the way that you look at your future. For example, when you're young, people ask you oftentimes, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are your plans for the future? Short-term goals, long-term goals. And a lot of times, these answers can be super unrealistic, but it doesn't matter because your future is wide open. So you can dream of being an astronaut. You can dream of being a lawyer, a doctor, anything that you want to be. And a lot of times people will tell you if you just put your mind to it and you put in the work, you can be anything that you want to be. But once you're diagnosed with a chronic illness that will continue to show up in your life, it's really hard to believe that that is your reality because it's probably not. So for example, if you don't know, a chronic illness is something that will continue to come back or continue to be in your system at all times. It can lay dormant, which means that it's not active. You can be in remission, and you can have flares. It'll come back. So for me, with lupus, there would be times where I would feel like I was on the top of the world. I was in remission, and I felt like I could literally do anything. And then there were also times when, sorry, my soda was right under the microphone. There were also times that I felt like I was just wasting my life because I couldn't bring myself to get out of bed. Sometimes I still feel that way on Saturdays because during the week when I'm working, I'm currently working a 40-hour-a-week job, and literally every day it's like I just need to get to 5 o'clock. I just need to get to 5 o'clock. And each day I'm like, okay, I just need to get to Friday, and then I can rest more on the weekend. This week was a little rough for me. Thursday was kind of a stressful day for other reasons, but I got home and I was in bed by 5:30. I fed my dogs and I crawled in bed and went to sleep, and I think I woke up around like 9 or 10 o'clock when my husband came to bed, just to talk for a few minutes, and then I went right back to sleep. And the next morning I still didn't feel completely rested. But you just never know what each day is going to bring, and that makes it really hard to make plans not only for the future but for tomorrow, right? So coming face to face with your own mortality, it has a way of making you gun shy about planning your future. You no longer have the luxury of assuming that you're going to grow old, assuming that you will be there for family events, or even, have the nerve to start something that you may not be able to finish. For me, one of those things was college. First of all, I thought my opportunity to go to college was gone, right? After my diagnosis, I went through 3 years of chemo, 6 months of dialysis, plasmapheresis, blood transfusions. I had a spinal tap at one point. I mean, I had all kinds of stuff that happened within this 4-year span of finding out that I had lupus, which I had been told that I only had 2 weeks to live. So to me, that 4 years of treatment was my new normal. So when that started to taper off and my body started to come into remission and out of this giant flare that I had, I actually started to allow myself to dream again and to think about a future and what that might look like for me. So when my son was 7, we actually started building a house with Habitat for Humanity, and I was able to work really hard with my mom actually to make sure that we made that house a home. We lived in that house for 11 years. We still lived there when he graduated from high school, but I met my husband when Jake was 12. So I never thought that I would buy a house. I never thought that I would get married. I just celebrated my 10-year wedding anniversary. Never thought I would see that. And at the same time that I was meeting my husband, I had started college, which I did actually get to walk across that graduation stage with college as well. So, I mean, it's almost like you appreciate those things more when they happen, but not everyone is lucky enough to get to do those things once their sickness is bad enough that they are on chemo and dialysis. Another girl that I listen to, I've listened to her podcast. She doesn't have a ton of them, but she also talks about lupus, and she is actually on dialysis and she needs a kidney. I was on dialysis for 6 months, and I don't even need it anymore. So, I mean, every single case is different, and the way that it affects your mindset about the future or even about the present is also very different. I would encourage you to enjoy everything that you can to the fullest extent that you can, because honestly, you never know anyway, right? People say, oh, when it's your time, it's your time. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's ways to prevent that. I'm not sure. But I mean, a healthy person can have an accident just as much as a sick person can, have a flare that is detrimental to them. So for me, I was given that 2 weeks expectation of, a valuable life. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to pinpoint exactly when, I might not survive by, but they knew that without serious treatments that they didn't have the ability to give me, that I would not make it past the 2-week mark. So once I did make it past that 2-week mark, right, I remember at that 2 weeks going, okay, they were wrong. How wrong were they, right? So does that mean I have a month? Does that mean I have a year? Nobody knew, because this was uncharted territory. And so I was nervous about my son being in a position of missing me, when something happened, right? So that took a toll on me as a mother. I didn't think that I would be able to work a regular job. It just completely changed my mindset to what my normal was now. Okay. And so in the beginning, you've got the 2 weeks. That's a very narrow frame to work with when you're thinking about your future. So it wasn't the 2 weeks. Do I have 2 more weeks? Right? And so it wasn't like I would make plans to do anything ever. I didn't dare to dream about things because I didn't expect to be here for that. In the beginning, everything depended on, I was in the hospital. So at that time, it was just like, you're in the hospital and you're doing everything that they say because you're hoping that that will have a positive impact, right? So, you can't walk around. You can't, I couldn't even brush my teeth because my platelets were so low that if I were to brush my teeth and my gums started bleeding, I could basically bleed out. So I wasn't allowed to brush my teeth. I wasn't allowed to drink water, anything, because my kidneys were just not working. So they did have me on saline to help keep everything like cleaned out, but they would give me a little Dixie cup, like not even half full of water, when it was time to take my meds, and they would give me like 13 pills, and they would be like, you got to make it work with this little bit of water. And before this happened to me, I was terrified of taking pills. I hated needles. I hated taking pills. When I was little, I was allergic to everything. And I remember my mom and my aunt taking Benadryl between 2 spoons and crushing it so it was a powder so I could drink it down with water, because the pills would always get stuck in my throat and it would freak me out. Well, now, I was a pro at this point, because, you're taking the big horse pills that are like, your antibiotics or your steroids, things like that, big blood pressure pills, like all these huge pills that before I would have never been able to. And now I've got 1 Dixie cup full of like 13 pills and 1 Dixie cup not even halfway full of water, and I gotta and take it all because that's all the water I can have until the next time I take my pills. And so, you have all these rules that you're living by, and the longer that period of time goes, the strictness kind of wears off a little bit, right? So I know I said soda earlier. I'm actually drinking carbonated water because I am still trying to take it easy on my body, because I want to be able to have these dreams and to be able to look to the future. I finally got to a place where I can actually think about the career that I'm doing and that I could actually retire, and it's only been like the last few years that I've actually considered that I might actually make it to retirement. I know I just said actually a lot, but that's actually how I feel. To go from, you only have 2 weeks to, you're actually living a complete full life, right? That's a big deal. And in the beginning, I was in the hospital with all these rules. And then after that, I had my treatments and my life revolved around treatments. And then after that, my life revolved around blood work, which it still kind of does. But, the only thing really that I have to really pay attention to now is the blood work and the way that my medications affect me. But I need to, watch my diet and things like that. And I know everyone should watch their diet, watch what they're eating, and try to take care of themselves. But, when you have a chronic illness like this, it's like, you have to, you don't have a choice. I could overdo it one day and be in bed for 3 days because, I spent too much time out in the sun, or I went for too long of a walk, or I had too much fun, can actually put enough stress on me to where I need to sleep for a couple of days. After 4 years of treatment, I was able to allow myself to start looking towards the future again, but it took a long time to get there. So anyone who's ever been in the position of coming face to face with their mortality understands that that means that you're not going to live forever. Our kids are grown now, but I know that, when they're younger, they just think, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Oh, I can do this and it's not going to happen to me. And I'm not going to have these bad consequences. And mom and dad are just overreacting and whatever. But when you are diagnosed with a chronic illness, you understand that at any time it can happen to you. And it did happen to you. You were just going through your life and happy-go-lucky, maybe. And you just started to feel kind of off. And now your life has changed forever. And so I think that, it's really important to take every day, as its own time to focus on what you're doing that day. It's important to, make sure that you do have goals set in mind for yourself. For example, I have to make goals of my chores to get them done, because if I don't make these goals for myself, I might find something else that I would rather do. But I want to be a functioning adult, not just, someone that everyone has to take care of. And so, I have to set goals for myself. for chores, for responsibilities, taking care of myself. I have a really hard time putting, aside time for myself. And also recognizing that my boundaries are important, that my needs are important, and not feeling guilty if I need to ask for things. Okay, but wait, you guys, I have to tell you about this book. It is so good. So, Tampa Heat is by author Thad Diaz. And let me tell you that when you sit down and start reading this, you are not going to want to stop. So the chapters are really short, so it makes the book flow like really quickly. And I'm not a huge like sit down and read a novel kind of person, but this book definitely moves things along. So if you do need to set the book down, you can finish your chapter and set it down and come back because the chapters are short. But I'm telling you right now, you are not going to want to put it down. This book is based in Tampa, and the main character is a firefighter who on his off duty is a PI, bounty hunter type person, who he's chasing a skip. If you don't know what that is, you're going to find out. But I would definitely recommend that you pick these books up. It's a whole series. The author is still writing them now, so they're continuously coming out. I think that he's done 3 this year. And the 4th one is going to be coming up really soon. So yeah, this is the sponsor for today's video, and I am loving this series. So again, Tampa Heat. The author is Thad Diaz, and you can find these on Amazon. Thanks, guys. So as you can see, coming face to face with your mortality does have a way of affecting you, and the way that you plan your future or even expect a future. It can change the way that you do things from day to day. It can change the way that you view things. It can change the way that you take care of yourself and your family. And hopefully it'll change those things for the better. It'll make you appreciate every moment, and it will make you appreciate your family, and it'll make you understand how much that support means, and hopefully you have a good support system. And I also hope that this podcast makes you realize that you're not alone. And if you ever want to talk, or if you have ideas for things that you would like for me to talk about, I hope that you'll reach out. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and it's going to be Living with Lupus, Taming the Wolf Within. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to have a nice support system going here as well, because it is important for us to know that there are people out there who understand, so that we know we're not alone. So if you guys need anything, let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.